ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Daddies of SA. As you can see right next to me,
We did that
I'm trying to
at the
say
same
a
time.
big intro, but I'm gonna keep it clean, man. This guy he's done some phenomenal stuff, quite inspirational for me. And I think the first time I encountered you was on social media. He was chatting about fatherhood topics or related conversations. And I was like, wow, this guy is amazing. And I started to follow you, and only to find I was blessed to share an event with him, intentional summit, the parenting intentional summit, and that's when I officially met the one and only Marvyn Harrison. Welcome to South
Thank you,
Africa,
man.
brother.
That was a really beautiful intro. I appreciate it. Thank you. You put me out of a job soon.
No, don't even say that. Don't even say that. So, I just want to know why you even started, but I don't want to go there first. Let's go back to who's Marvyn, you know? Because I don't know you that well, and I think my audiences, some of them don't know you that well.
Absolutely, they probably won't.
So first, we want to understand who are you, your background, and then we can focus on the man that we are encountering now on social media, the things you're pushing, your entrepreneurial journey, the social impact that you're having.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, take us back on who's Marvyn.
Like when I say, I answer who's Marvyn in a very specific way because how you will experience me is who I am.
Yeah.
And I always say that that's like someone that's curious, loving, authentic, powerful. Integrous is also in there. So those five things make up who I am. If you ever experience me outside of those five modes, then it's my bad and I owe you an apology. That means you're not getting the experience that you deserve. So who I am is just those five things all the time. And some are more leading than others. My story though, which for me, it's interesting because I'm now moving into a space of like telling a new story.
Yeah.
Because from a different context to people in South Africa, not growing up in a particularly affluent environment in the UK is completely different. Like, there's still certain things and infrastructures that we're still accessing. But when you're in relation to being next to a house that's worth 2.6 million and then your family are living on welfare and you're a street away from each other, it's really difficult. One thing about Joburg is I suppose it's very it's segregated. So the middle class, the upper class live neighbors side by side. Those who do not have live in townships and communities and yeah. And so, but for us, like we're right next to each other. And I think what that does is it creates this sort of vision of you can see things you can't have. And you have absolutely no idea how to get it, but you see it out of your door when you're walking to your shop every day. So coming from a low-income family in the UK, I think seeing what you could have and not being able to get it is the kind of poison. And I think it then leads lots of families or especially young black boys into life of crime or short-term ways of trying to get money.
Yeah.
And so growing up in that environment, but also growing up to like a Jamaican matriarch. So much like South African mothers, like running communities, leading the conversations, protecting families, like they played a large part of sort of running how things went. And there's a lot of absenteeism in terms of black fatherhood of my generation. And
When you say your generation, how old are you, Marv?
so I'm 40. So anyone that was growing up in the
85.
90s, 84. Anyone growing up 84, in the 80s, up to early 90s, there was a lot of absenteeism for black men. That kind of shifted now. So the last 10, 15 years, much more fathers are present. But in that particular time, there was just, we had to figure it out in our own ways. So my story is very much being raised by matriarchs of Jamaican descent. And for me, I thought that was a blessing. I never knew there was anything wrong with that.
Yeah, or anything missing.
Yeah, until I got older and I thought I'm going to be a dad soon. And that's the first time I realized that I don't actually know what that means. Like I know it intellectually. I know what people read. I know it based on like TV shows. I don't know it in me. I'd have to go and search for it. So I went on like a 10-year journey of finding out what that actually means. And it's taken me on this really beautiful ride. But, I wish, and I wish for everybody else going forward that they don't have to do it the way I did it. That the information exists much more accessibly. I had to dig it out and talk about it so much that it then became a thing that I become almost a subject matter expert in. But it would have been so amazing if I just knew at 19 and was able to ease myself into fatherhood from a really powerful position.
Ladies, as you can see, and gentlemen, Marv, you give him the mic, he's gonna go. Hey, he's gonna go.
Yeah.
But I love guests like that. You said something interesting that you could actually live with someone who's like affluent and you're extremely poor, and that really does kind of mess up your mind in terms of visualizing that, and you can't attain it. And you even said now that like kind of pushes you to even stealing from your neighbor for you to have that thing. So who was bringing you to sanity, or rather to say, don't pursue that way of life?
Yeah.
Was it your mother? Did you have any
Yeah,
other male
like-
figures around saying, "Yo"?
Yeah, so there,
have to work for these
there
things.
there are classes of crimes, and I think like when you think about what you don't have and what you would have tried to do, it's never things about neighbors, never things against people that you know. It encourages young boys to like steal from businesses or to sell drugs or to have just a constant hustle on, like trying to flip trainers or sell CDs, or you get an entrepreneurial spirit somehow. As I said, my family was close knit, but also it was a warm, open space. So I could come back and be like, I really want these Nikes, and she'll tell me I'm not going to get them, and I'd have to understand. And I felt like because the way my house was and the respect I had for my mother, it just wasn't possible to commit crimes and come home. Like it would have been a death sentence for coming home. Like
Your mom alone was the death
you're moving
sentence.
out. The day you're committing crimes, you're moving out. You're not my son. So
You're grown up now.
Well, this is when we talk about values and family values. It becomes really important. Like some people, some parents do see their children bringing home things that they know that they can't afford and don't question it. I would never have that in my family. My mum never had that in her family, and I think all for the better.
Sure. No. I think the era we were raised from, even my mom, dude, I wouldn't even dare. Even drinking and coming home.
I think that's the thing of like bringing shame on
Drunk.
your family. Like it's
Yeah.
like you can't dishonor our last name, and I love that stuff. I think that's important. I don't know if children are worried about their last name anymore. They're kind of just whatever. It's a free for all. But
Well, the law and the liberty is giving kids nowadays to say do as you please, but forgetting what you're saying is so important, that do you honor the last name? Because you're going to carry it when I'm gone, and what are you going to do with it? So how many siblings do you have?
I'm one of four. I'm the third child, which is why I'm probably the shiniest of everybody. I'm probably doing the most out of everybody. My family is like,
You're probably like left alone when you were growing up, like do your own thing.
you're just in the middle, man. You just get a little bit lost sometimes. You get overlooked. You're like the hand-me-down child. Like it's just that. It's just all that stuff in the mix. And so you have a very clear idea of like the life you want to live for yourself. And I just had that. I've just been clear literally from single digits that the kind of life I want to live for myself. And I've got it really.
Have you been to Jamaica?
Yeah, I've been 4 or 5 times, man. I love Jamaica. It's a beautiful, beautiful place. At the same time, it's like I've never really had it as a way that I feel like it's home. I've never made it home, but I love it. It's like when you get there and you hear people speaking like how your grandparents speak, it's some of the best shit ever. So I love it. I love Jamaica. It's a beautiful place. The people are beautiful and the culture is beautiful.
Yeah. So is your dad Jamaican as well?
My mum and dad are both Jamaican. My grandfather on my mum's side is Antiguan, so I have an Antiguan connection. I've been like an ambassador for the island for the last couple of years. I've been shouting about people to go to their carnival. I brought a whole group of people last year. It's like a big deal. It's really a proud thing. I think one of the things that I really like is that your last name on a Caribbean island, your last name really, really matters. Yeah. So if I say my mum's maiden name in Antigua, they know how to go find my family. They know the generations of the family. You can go to elders and they can say, yeah, they live over there and they used to do this, and name some people's names in your family. I think that's some of the most beautiful things ever, when you can recall your family to a place.
Sure. You keep saying this thing about your family name, and it starts to resonate with me that we also come from like a partly political, and how we carry ourselves, man, really, really goes a long way into how they did it and how we do it, and how do I pass on that baton to say, dude, carry your surname well, because that precedes you, or rather the behaviors I do precedes me, and as well as you. So yeah, that's some good nuggets you're sharing for us to share with our young siblings, our kids, and all of that. But I want to understand, Marv, when you started getting into this journey of fatherhood, when you had your first child, How old are you? Do
I
you
was
remember?
32.
Of course you do.
Yeah, that's 32.
32?
Yeah, I thought I was a man.
Yes, you were an oldie, yes. Well, I was an oldie too when I had my first child. According to society.
But this is interesting because I think the idea that when you having children young is something you can do and afford when you are in a country that's predominantly your racial identity. That's a different perspective when the whole country is geared towards your culture, your race, your ethnicity, your worldview. You can be supported to have children at 22 because you have generational connected families in a very different way. Like in my family, that wouldn't even have been possible. Like I would have been absolutely hemorrhaging my future by having children in my 20s. And so having them at 32 was still a little bit like, you know,
It's too soon.
I was one of the first. There aren't many people that have, there are people who literally had children at 20. Then there's like a bit of a black hole. And there's people like late 20s, early 30s that had their kids then. And then that's when you go in your big relationship, you have your children, you know, you try and be as honest and honorable as possible, get married, that phase.
Yeah.
That's when, you know, that group of dads is completely different to the 20-year-old.
Of course.
You know, it didn't work out and we kind of just had a child. I want to be respectful for the people that had children from one night stands. I'm trying to be as respectful as possible.
So how was it? How was the experience for you with your first child?
No, it was dope, man. Like it was something I always wanted. I dreamed about it and I wanted it, and I kind of went to my partner at the time, and I was clear that fatherhood is the next big frontier for me.
Yeah.
Again, still not really knowing what it means in detail, but really excited about fathering. And really, it was about, I felt like I had enough information to share with a young person. Like, I felt like that, I thought I had the information. I thought I was going to, like, coast it. It was going to be so easy. And it wasn't until my daughter came for my second child that it made it not
You
possible.
kicked the wind. Yeah. Continue.
And so it was a bit of a thing just to, like, go from one child to two children. Like, any parents who's watching will know that, like, you're, like, when you have one child, it's you and your partner parenting.
Yeah.
When you have two children, you're just a family, and you can't do adult-led things without your children. Because when you have one child, it's like you go to a friend's house, have dinner, bring your one child, put them to sleep next to you, and it's kind of like stay out a little bit later, and it's like, it's just fine because it's one child. When you have two, bedtime, routine, structure becomes paramount. So you start leaving places at 7 because you're like, I got to get back. Is
that where my life is going?
Yeah, no, 100%.
As soon as I get my second one.
As soon as you get a second one, you cannot just roll dog and roll around and be like, oh, I'm going to be out. And no, you end up going home because you're like, actually, the bedtime is so crucial because you know if you get it wrong, it keeps them awake for longer. And they'll just tear up your house at 9 p.m. and say, I'm not going to sleep. So the best of it is that, like, kids need structure. They excel in structure. So you have to do that, especially when there's two. You can get away with a little bit more when there's one.
Yes, it's like, you know, tearing up your house. I'm also hopefully, I'll get my second born sometime, but I'll see how that goes.
How are you working towards that? What's the plan?
You know I'm not the boss of that, right?
No, but you are a massive participant.
Oh, of course. No, there's a discussion, which we're discussing with my wife, and then we've put some timelines of when we hopefully want to have, it's more about the gap.
Yeah. How old is your first?
It's turning 3 next month.
You're running out of time, bro.
Dude, it doesn't matter. You never have out of time issues. Your child is 1, your child is 3, your child is 10. You're still gonna have issues.
No.
Issues, bro.
Your
Some
second
people
child.
wait. I know where you're going with this. Somebody has a different school of thought to this idea of having a child 2-3 years apart. They have a child. Their firstborn is probably like 10, 12 now.
Yeah, they're crazy.
Their secondborn is only like probably a few months. And what she was saying to me is that do it that way because now the older one is literally babysitting the other one.
No.
And she gets to it.
But it means
That's
that
her
it
thought.
means that your parenting lifespan is extended by 10 years.
I'm with you.
So
Yeah. Versus you condense it.
What you want to do is you want to get them growing through the relative phases
Together.
within 2 to 3 years of each other, so that you're actually this one is teaching the next stage to the little one.
Yeah. And
So
that-
like my son, there's certain things like I might give an instruction or things to do. He's heard it and he's able to communicate it to my 6-year-old in a way, or remind her in a way of the things that need to happen next. I think when you got kids 10 years apart, they don't have the same affinity.
True.
And so like I think one of the things is like it's like having two solo children, even though they're brother and sisters. It's like having two only children. Because they don't get the like
they don't.
the brother sister.
There's no synergy.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I think timelines are important, but I'm not rushing you to have children. I'm more just saying I'm inviting you into the idea that it can be dope if your kids are 3.5 years apart. So start now.
You know what? It's ideal. It's ideal, but people have their challenges. You know, some people are geared up to have kids back to back. Some people emotionally need to settle again
Absolutely.
and then come back. So I think that's what we were going through, and we were like, and it was just overwhelming, man. We didn't have the support in the beginning, but later we had. So that phase already was like daunting to us.
Yeah.
We can't have another one so soon.
Yeah. But then I think that's a different reason. That's not a child focused like reason. That's a parent focused reason, and I think that's a good reason.
Yeah.
That's a good enough justification to like delay, consider. If you've gone through it, if you did IVF, if you emotionally went through it, if it took you a long time, if even if the delivery was challenging, that's a really good reason to delay. So many people have kids and they're not emotionally ready, and then those children suffer as a result. So I tell men all the time, please have a vasectomy. Please stop having children. Please just say no. Like, because like dads having children and thinking it's a vibe and disappearing is by far the biggest crime. For me, that social crime that men can purvey. Because you're just creating a life in an unstable environment, and it's just the worst thing for me.
But you're also giving society a problem. Because now your kids come out there, they're scarred, and then they get to scar other people.
They try to mess up my children.
Eh?
They try and mess up my children.
There we go. So, yeah, we planning on doing it, but I think now we're more stable emotionally, mentally, and we geared to say, okay, we know what we're dealing with. Versus that time, I even understand why relationships end when they are kids. Because the focus is so in them that you lose yourself. You don't even see your partner the way you used to see them. You don't see yourself. And then eventually you just find yourself clashing, tension, and you don't know why. But if you really look deep, it was all about yourself.
How did you navigate it?
Counseling one. And a lot of social media searching, people that are speaking about fatherhood topics, because I just didn't have role models in terms of males that I could lean on. Hence, I also started the podcast Daddies of SA and my social entrepreneurial venture, Daddy Awards South Africa. But we'll chat about that. So I was just searching information everywhere. And it was comforting to hear other guys are going through it. And I was like, okay, cool. I'm not alone. Slowly but surely, I started to be comfortable. And the confidence came when I learned how to look after my child. Then I was like, okay, I'm not lost as much as I thought. Because now you're also bringing too much anxiety to your partner. Because you're just there. You're not doing anything. And then you also create the tension. So it was a lot of research, reading her, speaking to people, seeing some of your stuff on social media. I was like, oh, okay. And yeah, man, slowly it got me to a point where I was a bit stable and I was fine. And the counselor giving us different points of view, how life can transpire, things.
What were some of the most important things you discovered? When you said you went out looking for information, you said you did counselling, what did you discover when you went out and looked for it?
What I discovered is that you're not the only one going through this. And there's counsel out there, And you actually need to seek counsel from someone. Hence, for me, what's this? I'd call him the counselor. He helped me.
Is this counseling, therapy? Is this both? Is this more traditional?
More like it was like, traditional. Traditional in terms of I paid the guy. If that's called traditional counseling. We paid him, and then I was telling him my issues. And that's how I started to unwind, because I needed some way to outlet. And then he spoke to me, and he's an elderly man who's had kids, who's done stuff, So that for me was a comforting space. And then I started to seek out more counsel through friends. Dude,
what did you find when you went to your friends?
Guys don't want to talk about this, eh? Guys are very distant and they're very on the surface when they talk about things. Like, dude, man, just do that. And I'm like, dude, no, man. I'm going through serious challenges, which affects my marriage, affects my being as a dad. how do I navigate this stuff?
Yeah.
So yeah, it was.
Do you reckon this in South Africa? This is the first generation of men at scale who are getting married, trying to do the. I don't know. Is it Western? I don't know if it's Western. Do you consider it Western the way that marriage is kind of set up here, or is it more traditional?
No, it's definitely Western. It's definitely Western in the sense of, but I think slowly we're trying to go back to the so-called indigenous way of marriage.
Do you have an idea of what the difference is? I don't actually know at all.
So, when you're saying marriage, are you saying how we set up our marriage life?
How you set up your family, how you set up your marriage life, like the
Yeah.
family structures, who's where, and who's in your home, who's out of your home, who's your support system, who does what role where, men versus women in that relationship, then versus men and women in a relationship, who does what.
No, it's definitely Western. So let me qualify that by saying the education we have, one, the upbringing skews us to think in a certain way. Firstly, how to court a woman, us proposing with our knees down, us saying, okay, we're going to move into the urban spaces. Now, you must remember where we come from, there's a thing, Ubuntu, Motuki Motukabatu, the community will raise you. Meaning, any man in that community is practically your dad. Any woman in that community is practically your mom. So you are not going to do as you please in the streets when you're playing. Because if that lady comes and says, hey, she'll beat you, and you'll tell your mom's like, yeah, what did you do? But now, the Western is my child is my child. This is how we are also behaving. To say, don't you discipline my child. Don't you tell my child what to do. The community factor is not in our development. Now we're very singular. We're very, nuclear. So it's definitely set up in a Western way.
Yeah. Do you reckon there's a bad side to the community rearing that was done before? Like, why did it stop? Because if it was working, it would never have stopped. Or is it not that simple?
I'm sure there's numerous layers brought to it, but the fact of living in the urban spaces and part of the laws also were part of the reason where now I'm not an advocate of hitting kids, but the discipline. Let me use the discipline. Your neighbor now can't discipline you, even in the townships or whatever, because now it goes back to abuse, blah, 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 versus then your neighbor could literally scold you and shout at you and, kind of get you in line in a disciplinary way, even though they don't hit you, but they could be like, come to you and bring some, not force that will hurt you, but, to bring you to
alignment.
Yeah.
I think the only thing with that, and I do agree with it, but where it became unhealthy is things like where kids were sexually abused or it became physically abusive on a consistent basis. The elders wouldn't necessarily remove the person, stop the problem. It's like everybody knew who the person was that interfered with children
and lived with
and
us
they would let them still be around.
in the community.
And they'd be like, don't sit on his knee or like, don't go off with him. But he was still allowed to roam or they were still around to roam. And I think that was where a lot of the problem came from in community rearing. Also getting hit by random people who you don't know, like not having measurement of force. They could be drunk, they could be whatever. I think it kind of killed it. But I do think having some sort of like community justice for everybody, like a formal community approach to it is super, super dope. But you need to make sure your community is healthy and you've got to root out the people who are doing the worst of it. But yeah, I do have a preference for it.
You know what? I agree with what you're saying. The thing is, with those kind of people that you're saying are bringing all sorts of ills into society with the kids, as much as they were there, you weren't disciplined by like strangers. Because like if you live in this street, for example,
you knew
all the people here. So these are the
Okay.
people who are going to raise you. Versus if you went to another block, nobody knows you there. You can do as you please.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah.
But yeah, it's been interesting journey for me. Being a dad, and I love it. Very challenging, and it's driven me to have I don't know, maybe it's called a passion for being a dad, being around dads, and learning. So that eventually we pass on the baton to our kids and make them more sound beings. Because I think one thing I realized is that a lot of men have dad issues, but have this narrative in society that women have dad issues.
That's very true. How do
You
you
know,
reckon dad issue shows up in men versus women?
numerous ways, bro. But I'm sure you'll share your side of it. Example, how we abuse alcohol. You know what I mean? Because those are signs of pain. For example, I'll talk about myself. How I started this. It was part of me. It was a cry, in a way. But I cried in a form of, where are other men? I want to get counsel from you. I want to chat with you. How do we better ourselves? So we cry differently. You know, it might not be physical. Others, they're aggressive. Others, you know, there's different forms of pain that we feel as men from having daddy issues. So it comes in different forms, you know. Yeah. For you?
Well, I call it my father wound is more about not really rating men, to be honest.
Not?
Not really, no. Like I don't rate men who can't be both powerful and emotionally intelligent at the same time. I don't mean it in a judging sense. I mean if you're really proud of not being that. I don't have time for you. Like I feel like if you act out in violence against women and children, I don't have time. I don't have time for you. Like I've had to fight so many men in my life because I've just like
What, these were your mates?
just people that I know, people that I met, people I heard of. When I'm hearing stories and I'm hearing that they're abusing women, and when I challenge them, they try to get big with me, and I'm like, we gotta go because like
He's a big man. Don't try
I know,
it.
but like, and I mean it in the most respectful way. Like I'm definitively not a bully, but you can't go around bullying people and then like my approach is anything can happen and anything can happen when you're in engagement on thingies, and I advise it to not happen, but it can happen. If you are not remorseful and if you're not taking real acts to repair what you have done to vulnerable people, then as far as I'm concerned, like we can't coexist because you won't get the work that I'm doing and how I want to move and discipline and structure that I have. And so challenging a lot of men who feel like violence against women is appropriate or acceptable, or beating their children or just leaving their children and not communicating with them, all of those things are just like they're dead ideas. All of them are dead ideas and they can't continue. So I think a lot of it is just challenging these ideas and being uncomfortable. So when I see my father wound is seeing too many men give up on their family, give up on themselves as well, to be honest. Like I do
It
have...
starts with you. I think.
It does, but I think like... So I feel like there's a cycle of men being sent out to work and the capacity in which we have to work to provide for our family is greater than which many people realize. Like, I think people just feel like you just get up and go to work and it's like men are at work making money. And so it's easy for us. We have no pains. But in the pursuit of capitalism will literally break every single idea you have about yourself. It's brutal.
Yeah.
And it's unforgiving. Like, it's consistently competitive. And there is a very narrow funnel at the top. So this idea of like every man should be able to provide and then every man needs to be a MMA fighter is just like the most absurd high estimation for every male human being.
It's narrow-minded.
And then if you fail, you just get judged by everybody. Men judge you and then will try to dominate you. Women don't rate you. No one rates you. You're just sitting there on the fringes of society. So I think we create a lot of the toxic men that are existing amongst us, partly by not challenging them, but also making it so toxic that to get to the top, that only the worst human beings can survive it. Because you have to give up everything. You have to give up your idea of yourself, your idea of caring for people. You just got to make money.
Your family.
Family's like last. You don't even go visit your family. You don't think it's important to sit down with your mum and your dad or to listen to your partner who's been home all day. Like, you just think, I made money, now leave me alone.
Yeah, and I'm sending you the money.
Yeah, that's
You've
dead.
got a
It's a dead
house,
idea.
you're going to school. What more do you want from me?
It's definitely a dead idea. It's one that needs to evolve, but I understand that, like, the compassionate side towards men is that every man signs up to this. We just have no choice. Like, your only value in society is if you do it. So we can complain about it or not. And most men just choose not to bother saying anything. They just get on with it. But that's what I think breaks them. And then alcohol becomes a friend and adultery becomes a friend and violence becomes a friend. It's just like, it breaks down men more, as much as anybody else.
So when you started Dope Black Dads, what was the inspiration around it?
It's similar to you. I was stuck, and like again, I'm a man who seeks. I've always been a curious man. I never looked at life in a simple linear way. I want answers, and I want to be able to live a powerful life. I want to live a life that's like that makes you feel good. Like, I didn't feel good about my life in my 20s. I was like stealing moments, trying to figure out how to like provide and just to like enjoy. Like, I don't even know if men even enjoy their existence. Like, they only enjoy it in the depths. Do you get to enjoy it in the heights of life, like clean living and enjoy it? I do now. And it took so long to figure it out. I'm so protective of it now. Like, I will not allow my peace to be interrupted for absolutely anything, because it was so hard to find. And I think, like, when I was stuck and I went to other men, we were all just hustling in the same way. There was no answer. There was no like, oh, this is what I'm doing, and it's, well, we can copy this. It was kind of like everyone had a little something going on, but largely we were living quite an unhealthy lifestyle. Many people across Dope Black Dad's network, many men have passed away from doing that life. Like the intensity of living the kind of, I work really, really hard, and then I need alcohol or some sort of vice to balance out how hard I work, how disconnected I am from my children, from my partner. You know, just whatever it is, like I'm getting married and I feel like I don't exist in my own marriage, or I don't have a voice in my own marriage unless I'm like threatening, bullying, yelling at somebody. Yeah. It's like, that's not joy, man. You can't live to 70 like that. Energetically, you will burn out if you haven't already. So, yeah, when I got to that point, I was like, I turned to every good man I know, and I knew some good men. Yo,
by the sound of it.
I knew some great men, like great, powerful, intelligent men. And amongst us in that 23 group of men at the time, we had the best conversation I've ever in my life, just listening to men be like, I'm struggling with this, and this is hard. And nobody told me. And I'm just getting up every day and I'm walking into my world knowing that I won't come out finding it easy, and I won't necessarily get a hug. I may not even get a thank you today. And I think a lot of people don't understand how powerful like affirmation is to men, how much powerful respect is for men. And I don't mean like to bow down and just be like, whatever you breathe is amazing. But like, if your partner's doing something dope, I beg you speak life into him. Because he's got to go back outside and it's cold out there.
The brutal world.
There's no hugs out there for men. So, and hugs are great rechargers. So yeah, it was a big deal. It's a decision to kind of go into that work. Really glad that I did, and it's kind of shaped my life ever since. I've been working with men now for almost 20 years in different ways. But I've been fortunate. I've been very, very fortunate to have enough people around me just in time before my destruction came in, and I was able to find an answer that I could invest in for myself.
Yeah. No, bro, like, you know, the stuff that you're doing and how big Dope Black Dads has grown, it's quite inspiring. And when I read your story, it's as if you in the UK and me here, we probably had the same experience where it's like, why do we always have to bash, man? That was my problem, to say, I think there are good men out there, but the question is, where are they? Yeah. Why are they hidden? Why is the narrative specifically on black men?
I just don't think a good man is glamorous. I don't think it's glamorized to be a good man. To be a consistent, reliable man who probably like, an idea of a good man is a man that doesn't really say very much. The stoicism thing, where you kind of sit there, you don't make any fuss, your family's all around you, and that's why you're happy. Like, these ideas of like men is not even humane. You wouldn't even ask that of your dog. So I don't know why you ask that of men. It's just the most bizarre thing ever, that I'm not allowed to have any form of say, contribution. I just got to sit there, pay, and then like...
Bring the money.
Yeah, bring my slippers.
Let everybody sit around you.
Bring my beer, and I'll just watch sports. It's like, that's the deadest existence on the world. I want to be involved, man. I want my kids to know me. I want them to know my stories. I want them to know me when I'm laughing. I want them to see me when I'm challenged. Yeah. They got to know, because when they get to deal with it, they won't have any tools, because they're too busy thinking that we just got to sit here in silence. So it's incredibly important. So I'm profoundly honoured that you're doing this work, and it's happening in a different platform, but still, I just think it's great.
Yeah, and somebody was saying, because for me, I find this as, it's social work. And someone's like, oh, are you guys going, or are you guys like competing? I'm like, guys, there's no way of competing in such a thing. And firstly, I don't wake up to say, I want to do this and I want to compete. It's like a calling, if I can call it that, you know? Yeah. It's like, it came inside me. It's like, okay, how do I express it? And it came like this, and collaborations. And I'm also part of Dope Black Dads. For me, it's like, I don't see any issues for us to build the better man. And how we do that, we can do it from different platforms, but the end goal is the same thing.
Yeah, and anyone that's really real will tell you, it doesn't matter what the brand on the top of it matters, the process. No, like, definitely. Being around other men, asking really important questions, sharing resources and supporting each other while we figure this out. Because as I said, our dads in large droves weren't doing this level of emotional work and making sure that they're able to look after their kids. So we're having to do it with very little support from not only the community, but from where we've come from. And we're kind of doing it a bit blind. So we've only got each other really in this conversation, but we are doing it not only for, you know, our partners and our children, we're doing it for ourselves. Like I really want to be old. I really want to be old and be around my children. Like I want to be able to see my children have children. Yeah. I want to be around. I don't want to die at 56 from stress-related illnesses. But like we got a house though. Like that's not an answer. I want to be about and I want to be vibes. I want to be funny and a bit weird and too honest.
Well, you know what you're saying is you want to be human. And what we're doing as society, we box you to say, to be human and a man, it's this.
Yeah.
Not to be like a full human who's just being experienced as he is.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the challenge and the stereotypes we need to break. And how's your relationship with your kids and how old are they now?
They're 6 and 8. It's great, you know. Like I obviously struggled with my son. For 2 years I really went at it really head on. When he got to about 2.5, I was struggling a little bit because
I'm struggling now, dude.
Because it's different.
Oh, dude, now it's Well,
what's happening for you?
He's almost 3, like I said, but he's just tantrums, crying, and he just doesn't want to do anything that you ask him.
So one thing I realized,
and the discipline thing now is a big topic in the house.
Yeah, so my view is at that age you don't want to discipline. Most of the time, what they're trying to do is trying to be you. So if you watch your children, when they want to do stuff, it's because they see you doing it. If they want to go in the fridge, it's because they see you going in the fridge. If they want to hold the cup, it's because they see you holding the cup.
Yeah.
And you have to kind of let them, but under supervision. So like, obviously, if your 3-year-old picked up a glass cup like this, your immediate thought is that they could throw it, they could drop it, they can get cut.
Whatever.
But really, they just want to mimic what you're doing. So you gotta let them do it, hold their hands, help them do it, and then be like, see, well done. And once you do it a couple of times, they don't care anymore. So what you're doing is like, they're trying to exercise their like, familiarity of touching things, surfaces. What can I put in my mouth? What can't I? Because if you think about it, if you look on a table, any given table, we know the only thing that can really go in our mouths is the liquid inside the glass. But to them, this is just stuff.
Yeah.
There's no intellectual
Anything
difference
can come in or not.
Yeah, so I think you want to make sure they're able to test out different surfaces, textures and things, and then that tantrum element disappears. If they want to get out of the buggy and run around, let them run around for a little bit and just guide them. They get bored and come sit back down so quickly. So I think the terrible twos, of which I understand it, is children expanding from babies into children and just needing to get involved in the world a bit more. But I found that really difficult myself. So I'm not saying it from a place of judgment at all. I was stuck there. And then when my daughter came, it was just that times 2. And I was just emotionally, the rejection on an hourly, daily, minute by minute basis was so exhausting. Like to be so enthusiastic to go somewhere and then just be like, no, don't, now. Leave me alone, like just crying with your soul, like your children crying from inside, being like, leave me alone, I want my mother, all day. And you're just like, look, man, I do this too, man. Like, I'm here too.
Yeah.
I'm dope too. People outside love me. People in my own house don't give 2 shits. And you're like,
you're just that guy.
You're just a guy around in the way of me getting more time with my mum. And there is little phases of rejection, and it's really hard to emotionally get over and come back with like the right vigor and the right determination and the right optimism. Sometimes it just wears you down. So if you don't have support networks, if someone's not affirming you, hugging you, speaking life into you, telling you that you're doing something right, you can get lost, man. You can really like pull away and just be like, well, what do they need me for? That's where you start checking for other things and for other people, because you're like, any place where I'm being celebrated is better than somewhere
that's where
else.
I'll deviate to. Just going back to what you were saying earlier on around you wanting to be around till you're like 80, whatever. Yeah. That speaks to us chatting to us as men about health. Because that's one of the things I try to advocate to the gents. I'm like, gents, I don't know, man. At least walk, even if you don't like gym. Because what we do is we binge on almost everything. Food.
Yeah.
Sitting, watching TV, the drinks. But none of this activity that really builds the body or keeps the body flowing. You know?
Yeah.
And the health thing for me is, I think it's paramount, and it's the foundation of you. Because if you're healthy, it's easier now to work on your mind. It's easier now to then work on yourself physically. And then you can give yourself.
Yeah, do you know what's really interesting? So from a health perspective, the thing that worked for me most is just nutrition.
And that's a big one. Well, that's part of the foundations.
Yeah. And I felt like I've lost maybe 7-8 kg in the last month. And I'm going gym as well, but like my diet at the moment is eggs and porridge in the morning. Then I work out. Then I basically have either a fish or chicken and salad slash vegetables for lunch and dinner. And then now my stomach is so small, I'm actually only having 2 meals a day. So it's kind of like the way it's working out is the nutrition is really helping me shave off the bulk of the weight and the fat. And as a result, things like my blood pressure has improved. In general, my tiredness and my wakeness and my alertness has improved. So I'm just getting into a much healthier place. And I think all men have to find their version. You're right about it. Could be walking. It could be anything. Just do anything.
Dude.
Active, paddle, find your things. But being active and nutrition being the foundation of it is super important.
Dude, when you say that, because you know how us as men are. As soon as you bring that, it's like, you again with that stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking for me, it's so unfortunate that doesn't mean me living this life I'll live forever. You know, life can happen. But like, can you just put measures to make sure that you don't pass out there because of cholesterol, high blood, whatever the case may be, you know?
But you must have noticed this though, like as you try to reach out to men are only ready when they're ready. And I think trying to get to them before they're ready, you usually get a lot of resistance.
Yeah.
And they'll just disappear and they'll pull away from the group because it's like, for them, it's a constant reminder of what they're not comfortable or strong at doing. So the one place they don't want to be is somewhere where they're going to be held accountable. Finding a tribe, like I have a really good tribe and it's global as well. So all the people that I know, I can come to and be like, I got to fix this. And they're going to like lovingly push me. They're going to motivate me from a place of love.
So you're accountable to them and yourself.
Yeah, but like it's just not judgment. I don't need judgment alongside the long list of things I got to do as a man. I need someone to actually say, yeah, but remind me of the reasons why I'm living. Remind me of like the discipline that's important, and also just like come to my house and be like, let's go together. Like that's the kind of men that I need around me. Like men are gonna do stuff. I don't want to hear your advice. Like I'm not. Do you know what I mean? Like I don't try to fix me. Show me practically. Yeah, don't fix me. Like come into my life and be intentional and be like, right, I'm gonna come with you. Like, we're gonna go for a walk every day. I'm gonna turn up at your house at 6:30 after work. You should be home. We're gonna go for a walk for 30 minutes. Yeah. That's love to me. Like sitting there telling me like, you know, you gotta run. Bruv, if you don't get out of my face, like I think it's important.
Dude,
yeah.
If you live in the UK, I could be waking up and say, yo, Mom, I'm going for a run.
Yeah, but come knock for me and just say like, come let's go, man. We'll go slow.
I can help you by a phone call, dude. Because sometimes you don't live close to me.
No, get off your. Then you're not my accountability partner. Get off your cheeks. Come knock on my door. Come and save me from myself. If you love me that much and if you got great advice, otherwise keep your fixing. I don't need fixing.
It must be action driven.
Action driven, get off your cheeks. I keep saying cheeks, but get off your cheeks. I don't know if you can say the other word on this podcast.
Hey, bro, you can say bums, bro. It's fine.
No, I'm from the UK, so it's a different word altogether. So I'm just gonna be cheeks. I'm just gonna say cheeks. Everyone knows what that means. Get off your cheeks and go help people.
No, we're with you.
That's the community approach.
And what you just said, I love it because the Daddy Awards essay / Daddies of SA. The one thing I advocate for is being an active dad. What do you think an active dad is from your perspective?
You got to know your kids' schedule. You got to know your kids' doctor, school, friends at school, teacher, their routine for the week, what day is peak day. You got to be able to go through their clothes and know what they've grown out of and what they need to buy. You got to have a view. That's active.
Me out. I don't know his clothes.
You got. No, but the thing is, so one of the because it's really beautiful. One of my favorite things to do is like if the kids are away, I go in their room and I deep clean their room for them. They're young, so it's not like I'm invading privacy, but I deep clean their room.
It's your house.
Go through their clothes and like really check and see like, what do they need? And then one day I'll go shopping, get their stuff, and then just like they'll come jump in the car and there's bags in the back of all the updates and stuff that they need for their school stuff, and they're absolutely overjoyed. It's like I needed this, and thank you, Dad. It's just like seeing them. I call it conscientiousness. Like I love that word when you think about relationships, and I think even in your partner, if you observe your partner existing every day and then you have no idea what they need and you see them struggling with a certain thing and you just don't go and fix it and you have the resources to do so, then that's whack to me. So like for your children, it's the same thing. If you see them and you have the resources, people who don't have resources, don't sit there and bend your head out of shape. The reality is if you have the resources and you see that they need, a bigger shoe because their shoes are thinking that, you should be the one to be able to do it. It shouldn't be relied on any one parent. It's like, I can do that too. So I'm going to go take you on Thursday. Those moments with your kids are the best moments. Like I love taking my kids to go do practical stuff.
Dude, you know what? You just call me out because like I'm still on a journey, you know, and I'm trying to get to a point where I'm in tune with my kids' schedule, everything. And you brought something around clothes. I'll like take a shoe that I know he always wears, and the mom will be like, "Dude, but that shoe's small now." So my activism has to grow beyond what I think active is. You know,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
for me now, it's still I take my son to go play. I'm like there with him. I try to read with him. I bath him. I put him to sleep.
Yeah.
Which is still good, but it's a journey. And
Bro,
what you're
you're
saying is
cooking.
you
Don't.
need to,
No, no, no.
you know?
Bro, I've been doing. My kids are 8 and 6. I've been doing this longer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Understand that in my first 3 years, I was useless. So you're already ahead, pro rata, how much time you've been a dad versus me already.
Yeah.
So there's like one thing you can't do, especially in this spaces, yeah, is judge other dads for the things they haven't found out yet. I'm
Correct.
telling you, for me, my levels are now like when I have my children, I can run the whole ship end to end.
One man.
My last battalion is my daughter's hair. She obviously has afro hair. It's a woman's hair. It's different. I don't have hair, as you can all see. I don't have any relationship with black women's hair. I'm gaining one so quickly because I need to be able to do her hair for her. I can't keep going to my mum's, hiring somebody. Like, it's just like,
It's expensive for you guys there as well.
it's
Yeah?
just like it's a dumb number every time I want to get my daughter's hair done. So my mom is currently holding it down, and I'm trying to now make sure I got it. And I'm getting better, man. So once I have that, you're not stopping me. I'm father of the year to myself.
Tell the people in the UK they can nominate you for Daddies of SA.
Nah, I want it all, man. Every award, because it's hard. Like
Yeah.
sitting there and trying to learn 4C hair types and what products you need to wear and grease versus oil and gels and like when do you use them, different combs and how often do you have to wash it and leave-in conditioner and like, bro, you gotta know that stuff. If you don't know it, and by the way, even you knowing it on a surface level, there are still women today who are still discovering stuff about hair now because there's been very little research in it, which means that you as a man are miles behind. So I'm working.
But how did you empower yourself to basically get to that point?
Just YouTube.
What
but
are
like,
the practical
I-
steps?
the practical steps is like YouTube everything. There's a online answer to every problem on earth. ChatGPT, something. I'm using every resource I possibly can. Also, my mum is a great resource. Any black woman who's a friend of mine knows that they've been asked questions about hair types, what products do you use, how do you manage your hair, etc., etc. But also just like what I need to understand women so I can raise my daughter. Like I can't raise my daughter from like my male gaze every single time. Like I need to be able to understand when to push. And what you'll realize when you have a boy and a girl, there's a different energetic shift. You start to understand the gender differences and how they truly come about. Like it's part socialization, but some of it's just innate biology. And knowing the difference is a really important thing to know when you can push your daughter versus when you just got to allow her to communicate and be heard. Those things are super important, man. Raising healthy girls by men is not easy, but like the levels. Same in the reverse. Mothers who
with
raise
the
boys
as
get,
well.
yeah, but mothers who raise boys get hotted up all the time for like not raising manly men or whatever. And these ideas are nonsense. You can do it, but it has to be super intentional. I can't just rely on like competitiveness and pushing my daughter when my daughter would tell me no. But the no is different to like a petulant child no. It's a powerful from within. I don't want to do that. And I have to check whether I'm asking her to do it as a child or as a daughter or as I'm thinking I'm like me. And if I'm answering from the wrong place or asking from the wrong place, I got to admit defeat and be like, maybe that isn't the right thing for you to be doing. Like it's a different game.
Yeah. Well, you obviously have to be in tune and really listen deeply versus just on the surface to what they're responding to. With boys, I feel like when I looked at myself when I like got married, I'm still navigating this and I'm researching, and there's still also that gap for us as men to say, you're expected to be this husband because obviously the woman marries you and has expectations similarly to you with her. But for us, already the gap is men aren't there to raise their kids. Now boys are there to now become these so-called super husbands, but nobody has a clue, but everybody's bashing you for failing. What do you think? How do we get to change that narrative and empower ourselves as men to?
Yeah, but I think men need to look after more young boys though. I think like especially older men, we need first of all we gotta get back to the generational shift. We need grandfathers back in the mix for just the practical things. Like my son has an incredible grandfather who teaches him like cars, mechanics, building things, putting
Nice.
stuff together. That's not my gift at all.
Yeah.
And so like he gets to learn that type of stuff, and he'll sit there and put together like a car set with pieces and like sit there and put it together bit by bit. He's just like that. He likes doing flat pack furniture.
Yeah.
So we need granddads back in the mix. That's the first thing. So all those estranged men, as long as they're healthily minded, please come back into the fold and play a role in grandchildren's lives. The second thing is we need men to hold that community space and take young men out into the world and show them stuff. Like when your son is of age, like from like 6, 7, 8, all your errands, take him. Like get him to see, and like, you know, my son and my daughter they'll get the budget. They'll be like, all right, we're going food shopping, here's the list. And they go do the shopping and they pay and they check the receipt and they help load the car. Like they gotta get into the world of like helping out. And that doesn't mean I'm making my children servants to me, but getting involved in the day-to-day life skills of like existing is super, super important, and from a man's perspective as well, because it's very different to a mother's perspective. That's why the two do really well go hand in hand, even though they don't have to go hand in hand, but they do.
Yeah. And I think another thing is I believe, like with you, there's gonna come a point, I think, where the mom is probably gonna take more dominance. I'm assuming around when she becomes a teenager, because there you'll still give your fatherly advice, but women need women at a certain age. Similarly to boys, they would need their fathers.
Yeah. I think the flow happens, it goes in and out constantly. And there's a point where like, you know, you need nurturing more as a primary care. Then you need to be challenged and expanded more. Then you go more into your friends and your community circle. So there's a point where like we left our mum and dad's like ear. We didn't want to hear from them, but we wanted to hear what our friends thought and what the cool people 3, 4 years older than us thought. And, you know, we started looking out of our family for references. At that point, you know, you've got, as a parent, got to know when to let go and to allow them to test out everything you taught them. Because your lessons are pretty much repetitive anyway. There's a point where they just know what you're going to say for certain scenarios. And can you release your children and be like, right, I trust that you've heard everything I've said, what I expect of you, what we believe as a family, and go and exercise it and come back to me if it goes wrong. So your role changes when you get a little bit older. It's not the same thing all the way through. So yes, I do believe that there's a point where mothering to daughters is a big, big connection. But actually, men and dads clash at a point. Women and their children and their girls, they clash too. So there's a point where like that's where I come back in, and it's like, actually, you're not letting me be a woman, mum, because you're fearful of what could happen for women, and that's fair. And she's got that information, and she's gonna come to me to be like, Dad, let me push myself and go to the next level. And I got to try and like find alignment with their mother and myself and themselves as to what the next steps are. It's a constant communication.
Fluid, yeah.
Bro, it's the conversation levels need to be so high. Like, it's so funny because like the kids have been away in Bristol and their mum is we're gonna do a call probably after this and just do a full debrief. Everything that happened, everything you saw, ideas that they had that sounded unhealthy, things that they were passionate about, things that worked for them, things that didn't. We just do that debrief on a regular basis every week to ensure that there's a true handover of information. So in her absence, it's not like, oh, I don't know. It's like, no, I kind of have an idea because I've heard this before from your mum. So that's just important stuff that should be happening.
Sure, yeah, no, Marv, you can chat for days, bro.
I'm passionate.
Dude, I can feel it. I think we're gonna land this plane soon. But what's the most challenging thing about being a dad?
Just going through the phases. You never perfected it. There is no destination. It's just lots of processes. And, you know, you have to communicate more. You have to tackle your fears. You can't be scared of things that your children need you to be strong on. So, you know, that's why it's great to hear you in counselling, because I think that helps you tremendously. Like, that's it. You got to do the work. You got to find a tribe. It's hard to find a good tribe of people who have the same values as you. And then you got to provide still and do all the other stuff. Then you got to be emotionally healthy. That's a hard gambit of things to do. And as a result, you may have to cut some people off and lose some things that aren't helping you. That's hard.
Yeah, you know, facing that reality of certain people might just have to cut them so that you can focus on what you want to do.
Yeah, let the culling begin,
can be challenging for you. And the dopest thing about being a dad?
I think genuinely, like, observing somebody develop over time is a real pleasure. It's a real honor to watch somebody go through life. I think you can have that in other relationships, but you literally see somebody come out their first breath and all the way through, and you just watch them just take on life, and then they start to mirror you, and sometimes they're better than you at things, and you're like, wow, that's so interesting. So for me, that's the gift. Like I love my kids so much. It's the number one thing I want to do in life is spend as much time with them as possible. We've got summer holidays coming up, and I'm already planning a feast of things because I can't wait to be with them and just be in life with them rather than parenting them from a distance.
Yeah, that's nice. That's nice. So, for us young dads and many others out there, what advice do you have for us gents?
I think you have to know the difference if you are a father or not. If you really are, it's not.
What
about,
does that mean?
It's not just about making children and then making money. It's genuinely about playing an adult male role in somebody's life, and it's an ongoing, everyday, all day process. Like you cannot do it half-hearted. So some people need to consider not having children. Some people need to consider vasectomies. Some people need to consider just abstaining. Like you're creating literal like social chaos by making children and not having a supportive family network, a proper one, because it's so hard to do.
It's hard, dude.
And
like you need a community to raise a child.
We're literally overburdening mothers, overburdening them with our absence.
I agree.
And then we're creating these mother wounds where men are looking at these amazing black women who have tried to do it on their own, suffered, and now they got feelings about black women and they got loads to say. But where do you think that came from? That vision of what you think a black mother should be, it's not healthy. So yeah, there's a couple of things that I think, I'm not all for Western ideas and stuff, but I think there's a couple of things that can be taken. And I think men getting involved in children's lives will make them live longer and actually have a happier life overall. Because the money and the job disappears real quick.
Yeah, 1 minute you this high rolling guy, next thing you lose your job, and now you start to feel worthless into your family.
Because you have nothing else. So
and you can't connect with everyone.
At all.
Marv, thank you so much for giving me time.
I appreciate it.
And
every time. Anytime. I might come back and come hang out. We'll do a group one.
Check Marv out on Dope Black Dads on social media. He's doing amazing stuff. And yeah, man, this is out. Daddies of SA.
Thank you.